Welcome everyone, join us today as we celebrate the amazing life and legacy of Margaret Urlich, one of New Zealand's brightest stars. With a voice of elegance, strength, and unmistakable style, she became a defining artist of the late 80s and early 90s throughout Australasia. So let's dive in. Margaret Mary Urlich, born the 24th of January 1965, in Auckland, New Zealand. Born into a large musical family with 7 siblings, Margaret first performed publicly at age 6, singing alongside 3 of her older siblings at a local shopping centre. Though she loved to sing, she was naturally shy and never imagined a career in music. With no direct role models or industry connections growing up, success in show business felt far removed from her world. It wasn't until her late teens, when her cousin Peter began performing and her brother Pat started gigging in bands, that she began to consider the possibility for herself. After finishing school, Margaret spent a year traveling around New Zealand, picking fruit and taking odd jobs. Upon returning home, she attended a performance by Pat's band Corners, later known as Peking Man, at the Esplanade in Devonport. She was struck by the quality of the performance, especially her brother's stage presence, and it sparked a new sense of belief. If he could do it, maybe she could too. In her childhood home, money was tight, so their only window into popular music was an old valve radio in the kitchen. When Margaret was about 10, an aunt gifted the family a record player, which, despite its poor sound quality, opened up a new world. Early musical influences included Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, Teaser and the Firecat by Cat Stevens, the Jesus Christ Superstar original cast album, and Buffy St. Marie's Moonshot. As she grew older, artists like Joni Mitchell became formative, with Mitchell's raw, emotive songwriting and distinctive voice leaving a lasting impact. Margaret also greatly admired Nina Simone's vocal tone and musicianship, and later, Annie Lennox, whose commanding presence and powerful voice were a source of inspiration. Margaret began her musical journey as the lead vocalist of band Peking Man, alongside her brother Pat, Tim Calder, Perry Marshall, J.F. Buller, Neville Hall, and John Fearon. The band gained national recognition after winning the 1984 Shazam Battle of the Bands, a popular TVNZ competition. They went on to score several hits, including Good Luck to You, reaching number 6, Lift Your Head Up High, number 21, and their chart-topping single, Room That Echoes, number 1, in 1985. After Peking Man signed with CBS Australia, label executives made it clear their main interest was in Margaret as a solo artist. Around this time, in early 1987, she was struck by personal tragedy when her youngest sister took her own life. Seeking support and connection, Margaret joined the all-female pop group, When the Cat's Away, enjoying the camaraderie while still focusing on her solo ambitions. In 1988, Margaret relocated to Australia and later travelled to the UK with manager Gilbert Egdell and photographer Kerry Brown. There, she met with CBS staff and producer Robin Smith, with whom she formed a strong creative rapport. She returned to Sydney to record her debut solo album, Safety in Numbers, at Studios 301. Released in New Zealand in 1989 and in Australia by March 1990, the album was a major success, peaking at number 4 on the New Zealand charts and number 5 in Australia, where it achieved triple platinum status. Margaret's rising solo career was recognised with an ARIA Award for Best Breakthrough Artist. Her singles also charted well in Australia, with Escaping reaching number 17, and Song, number 1, peaking at number 24. Margaret's androgynous look and signature short haircut helped her stand out in a music scene often dominated by traditional expectations of femininity. She made a conscious decision to avoid the stereotypical image of a female pop singer, wanting to be seen first and foremost as a serious musician rather than as a sex symbol. However, as her career progressed, she began to reflect on that image, later questioning why she felt the need to downplay her natural attractiveness in the first place. Following the huge success of Safety in Numbers, Margaret's second album, Chameleon Dreams, was given a reported budget of $500,000. Pre-production began in March 1991 with producer Robin Smith, and by mid-year they had recorded 2 co-written tracks, along with Boy in the Moon, penned by Smith and Barry Blue. Eager to have a greater hand in songwriting this time, Margaret travelled to London to collaborate with Rob Fisher from Naked Eyes fame, on the album's title track. She then headed to Los Angeles to work with Ian Prince, who co-wrote 2 songs and produced 4. Her final writing sessions were back in London with Simon Law and Tony Swain, the latter also producing 3 tracks on the album. Boy in the Moon was released as the lead single in New Zealand on the 18th of September 1992, reaching number 9 there and number 21 in Australia. The music video was filmed in Paris. Other singles that charted in Australia included Human Race, reached number 55, and Burnt Sienna, number 33, in 1993. The album's success earned Margaret the Best-Selling New Zealand Artist of the Year award at the 1992 World Music Awards in Monte Carlo, where she also performed Love Train. Chameleon Dreams achieved platinum sales in both New Zealand, 15,000 plus units, and Australia, 75,000 plus, impressive numbers, though still shy of the massive 240,000 plus sales of her debut album. In 1993, Margaret took part in the second Wizards of Oz Music Showcase, a collaboration between Export Music Australia, EMA, and Austrade, aimed at promoting Australian and New Zealand talent overseas. As part of the initiative, she toured Japan alongside singer Rick Price and the band Yothu Yindi. Around this time, she also teamed up with Dale Barlow to record a rendition of song, I've Got You Under My Skin, for LP, Kate Sobrano and Friends, released in 1994. Embracing her cultural roots and Maori heritage from her father's side, Margaret spent a significant part of 1994 back in New Zealand. She took on the role of Mary Magdalene in a major concert version of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus Christ Superstar, releasing her interpretation of song, I Don't Know How to Love Him, which reached number 44 on the local charts. Returning to work with her longtime producer and collaborator Robin Smith, Margaret began crafting her third studio album, The Deepest Blue. Smith once again handled production and arrangements, contributing tracks like Crime to Be That Cool and Song for the Unknown Child. The album featured an impressive lineup of supporting vocalists, including Daryl Braithwaite, Betty Ann Monger of Ardija, and Mark Williams. Recording and mixing took place at Studio 301 in Sydney. Ahead of the album, a non-album single, a cover of Eric Carmen's All By Myself, was released in New Zealand in March 1995, reaching number 26. The Deepest Blue followed in September 1995, peaking at number 18 in New Zealand and number 17 in Australia. While it yielded moderate success with singles like Gonna Make You Mine, number 29, and Every Little Thing, number 50, the album didn't match the impact of her earlier work. As sales declined and international momentum stalled, Sony Music ended their partnership with Margaret, bringing her major label chapter to a close. After parting ways with her record label, Margaret found herself at a crossroads. Murray Tom, former head of Sony New Zealand and a longtime supporter, approached her with the idea of recording a jazz album. However, jazz wasn't a direction Margaret wanted to pursue. By this time, having 2 young children to care for, she also wasn't in a position to focus on writing a full album of original material. Living in Bowral in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales with her partner George Gorga, an audio engineer, they had access to their own recording space, a home studio known as The Shed. Rather than a jazz project, Margaret proposed an album celebrating classic New Zealand pop songs. Tom embraced the concept, and Eddie Rayner was brought in to produce the album. The resulting album, Second Nature, featured beloved New Zealand tracks from across the decades. These included 1960s hits like Nature by The Formula and Love Hate Revenge by The Avengers, alongside more recent favorites such as Shona Lang's Glad I'm Not a Kennedy, The Crocodiles, Tears, Crowded Houses, Don't Dream It's Over, and The Mutton Birds, Anchor Me. Recording took place at The Shed and the album was later mastered at Bernie Grundman Mastering in Hollywood. Released in New Zealand on May 28, 1999, Second Nature reached number 11 on the NZ album sales chart and remained there for 13 weeks, ultimately selling over 15,000 copies and earning Margaret another platinum certification. Despite the highs and lows of commercial success, Margaret remained grounded in her artistic integrity. While her second album had sold around 70,000 copies in Australia, an impressive feat by most standards, it had been seen at the time as a commercial dip. Something she looked back on later, in reflection, quoting, I wish I had enjoyed the moment more. I guess I was more fixated on what I hadn't achieved rather than what I had. The fact that my albums went on to be commercially successful has been a huge achievement, particularly because there are so many excellent recordings that for one reason or another get overlooked. Following the release of her final album, Margaret gradually stepped away from the mainstream music scene. While she no longer pursued a high-profile recording career, she occasionally returned for special appearances, such as her comedic duet of Carly Simon's "You're So Vain" with Shawn Micallef on Season 1 Episode 6 of The Micallef Program. The pair had previously performed a humorous version of "Something Stupid" on Full Frontal, where Shawn appeared in his Milo Kerrigan persona. Over time, Margaret shifted her focus away from the pressures of the commercial music industry. Though she had experienced both success and setbacks in her career, her later years were spent away from the spotlight. By 2017, she had transitioned to a quieter life in the New South Wales Southern Highlands, working as a high school music teacher and contributing to the arts in a more personal and grounded way. In February 2020, Margaret was diagnosed with cancer, which she battled for over 2 years privately. Sadly, on the 22nd of August 2022, Margaret Urlich succumbed to cancer at the age of 57, surrounded by her family at her home. She is survived by her husband George Gorga and children Ava and Carlos. And there you have it. Though Margaret is no longer here, her music still moves hearts today. Her legacy lives on in every note she sang, a true star who left us too soon, but left behind so much beauty, and will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Take care and bye for now.